You're about to watch the most relatable and useful content on business in Nigeria and all around the world. Good morning and welcome to Business Insight. I am Olaoluwa Awe. If you saw yesterday's conversation on food technology, then you will love today's concluding insight. And if you missed it, today is another opportunity because later on the show, Ahmed Jayola and I will bring you the innovations in food business. But we start with different business developments you should know about, so stay tuned for the business news. President Bola Tinubu has reassured investors that Nigeria will provide a welcoming and supportive atmosphere for business growth. He made this commitment during a meeting with the Managing Director of Energy and Natural Resources for Standard Chartered Bank in Europe, Africa and the Middle East, Mr. Adi Adiola. A statement shared by Special Advisor on Media and Publicity Ajurin Gelale affirmed the current administration's dedication to clearing obstacles that hinder investment growth in the nation through tax reforms aligned with international standards. He said the government is taking strong steps in ensuring security to boost overall efficiency for better results. President Ahmed Tinubu emphasized the country's openness for business and commitment to collaboration with those interested in Nigeria's progress. Away from that, Nigerian music sensation Ahmed Ololade, popularly called Asake, who has allegedly sold out all tickets for his first concert at a 20,000-seat capacity O2 Arena in the UK on August 20, 2023, is projected to bring in around 2.86 billion naira in revenue. This achievement further solidifies the global impact of Nigerian music. As of August 17, ticket prices for the event vary from €40, approximately 43,000 naira, to about 143.85 pounds, around 143,000 naira. According to information from Stereo Board and Access, the official ticket partner for O2 Arena. These suggest that Ashake's potential earnings could range between €860,000 and over 2.8 million euros. His unique fusion of Afrobeat and hip-hop has garnered him a substantial following, with hit tracks like Lonely at the Top accumulating millions of streams on platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. Away from that, paint manufacturer Berger Paints Nigeria PLC has reported a 136.5% rise in profit for the first half of 2023, driven by a substantial reduction in finance costs. Profit increased to 299 million naira from 126.4 million naira in the first half of 2022, with operating profit reaching 438 million naira. The drop in finance cost was attributed to decreased interest expenses on borrowings. The company's revenue grew by 16% to 3.5 billion naira, while cost of sales accounted for 66.6% of revenue. Operating expenses slightly increased to 794.6 million naira, and cash generated from operating activities improved to 313.6 million naira. Investing activities also saw reduced net cash usage. Financing activities showed a loss due to higher dividends paid, while cash and equivalent increased to 618.6 million naira. Earnings per share rose to 103 trillion naira from 44 naira, with total equity and liabilities amounting to 5.52 billion naira, highlighting improved financial performance. And away from that, Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, Rebecca Grinspan, has called on African economies to adopt technology driven global supply chains to enhance their prosperity. During the launch of a new report, Rebecca emphasized that Africa has the potential to emerge as a significant exporter of higher value added goods. This shift could generate growth, create jobs, and lead to increased productivity and wages across the continent. Greenspan noted that African countries face borrowing costs that are 4 times higher than those of the United States and 8 times higher than European, emphasizing the need for diversification for the development of the private sector. Director of UNCTAD's Division on Africa, Least Developed Countries and Special Programs, Paul Akinomi, also suggested that removing regulatory obstacles and implementing regional industrial development plans are crucial to attracting substantial private investment, pointing to an example involving the Democratic Republic of Congo and Zambia, where a regional agreement allows for the establishment of an industrial zone focused on producing electric car batteries. And moving on, chocolate makers including Hershey and Mondelez are facing challenges as they try to raise prices on their products due to soaring cocoa costs. Despite enjoying high profits in recent years, data indicates that consumers in Europe and North America are cutting back on chocolate purchases in response to the price increases. Top cocoa producers, Ivory Coast and Ghana, have faced drought, excess rains and disease for the past 2 years. They produce 2/3 of the world's cocoa, and officials are struggling to help farmers cope with climate conditions despite a 2019 living income scheme that has largely been ineffective. The industry's profitability is at risk as retailers push back against further price hikes, leading to a potential margin pressures. This trend comes as cocoa prices reach 46-year highs and sugar prices are near their highest levels in over a decade. Chocolate makers are banking on the resilience of their products to price increases, but lower price alternatives and consumer trading down behavior are impacting sales volumes. And moving on, British retailers experienced a larger than expected sales decline in July 2023 due to heavy rain, high inflation and consecutive interest rate increases. Official data revealed a 1.2% drop in sales volume compared to June, surpassing economists' forecast of a 0.5% decrease, and retail sales volumes were down 3.2% compared to the previous year. Sterling weakened as analysts assessed the impact of the sales drop on the broader economy. Sales were particularly slow for supermarkets, clothing and food due to the summer's wet weather and rising living costs. Online sales accounted for 27.4% of retail activity, the highest since February 2022. Food store sales volume fell by 2.6% and non-food stores experienced a 1.7% decline. Despite challenges, this was only the second monthly sales decline in 2023, indicating some consumer demand resilience. And economists predicted that rising interest rates would dampen consumer spending in the second half of the year. Although accelerating wage growth and slowing inflation could contribute to improved consumer sentiment. Now we move to the stock market, but before we do so, let's go on a short break. We'll be right back. Now we head for the Nigeria Stock Exchange (NGX) trading update on Thursday, August 17, 2023. Well, shares surged with mixed performance, with a total of over 320.3 million shares exchanged in 5,176 deals, representing a market value of 3.7 billion naira. These figures indicate a 10% increase in volume, a 50% decline in turnover, and a 17% drop in the number of deals compared to the previous trading day, Wednesday, August 16, 2023. Among the 116 equities that took part in the trading session, 21 concluded with gains while 18 experienced losses. John Holt led the gainers with a 10% surge in share price, closing with 1.32 naira per share. It was followed by Computer Warehouse Group with a 9.76% increase, Prestige Assurance Company with an 8.33% rise, and Cortex with an 8% uptick. On the downside, Guinea Insurance marked the highest decline with an 8.57% decline in its end-of-day share price, settling at 0.32 naira per share. This was followed by RT Briscoe with an 8.16% reduction, Consolidated Hallmark Insurance with a 7.61% dip, and Sunu Assurances Nigeria with a 6.98% fall. Also, Fidelity Bank led in trading volume with 80 million shares exchanged. It was followed by Transcorp Nigeria with 34.3 million shares, United Bank for Africa with 24.4 million shares, and Universal Insurance Company with 22.4 million shares. In the end, the overall market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange stands at 35.1 trillion Nigerian naira. Now bringing you the Malawi Stock Exchange MSE trading recap as the trading session concluded on Thursday, August 17, 2023. A total of over 1.3 million shares were exchanged, reflecting a market value of 135.9 million Malawian kwacha. A comparative analysis with the preceding MSE trading day, Wednesday, August 16, reveals a 74% decline in trading volume and an even more substantial 90% drop in turnover. The current market capitalization of the Malawi Stock Exchange is valued at 6.29 trillion kwacha. Among the participants, 8 equities engaged in trading activities resulted in 2 gainers and 1 loser. The positive performers were FDH Bank with a modest increase of 0.34% and National Insurance Company Holdings with a marginal gain of 0.01%. On the other hand, Icon Properties experienced a slight depreciation of 0.05% in its value. Now let's dive into the commodity market. Wheat is selling for 465.75 cents in the commodity market in the US, while gold is $1,886.13 US. Silver goes for $22.63, while copper is sold at $3.69, and Brent crude is going for $84.30. Now moving on to the currency market here in Nigeria, the Nigerian Naira's recent rise against the US dollar continued on Thursday, August 17, with the unofficial foreign exchange FX market reacting to the $3 billion loan secured by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and NPCL from the Africa Import and Export Bank Afrexim to stabilize the local currency. At the opening of trade, dealers in the parallel markets were seen buying the US dollars at a rate of 835 naira while selling at 860 naira. Prior to the announcement of the Afrexim loan agreement on Wednesday, dealers seen in the parallel market purchased the US dollars at 880 naira and sold for 910 naira. But at the close of trading yesterday, buyers got the US dollars for 840 naira, while sellers received 860 naira for each US dollar. Also for British pound, it sold for 1,150 naira if you're buying, but for those who sold, they sold for 1,180 naira. Regarding the euro, the exchange rate is around 900 naira for buying and 950 naira for selling. And that's the market trend for now. I am Olaoluwa Awe. We'll take a break now and return to continue our conversation on food technology. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Business Insight. Once again, I am Olaoluwa Awe, and today we'll be focusing on the advantages of food technology in Africa and all around the world, while we'll be bringing some other food technologies your way and talking about how they can change the way you do business. For those in the food business sector and for businesses generally, I won't be doing this alone today. I will be joined by Ahmed Jayola, but it's very important that we emphasize the importance of food technology because it's practically changing the way we do things. Ahmed Jayola, good morning.
Thank you.
Yes, so we talked extensively about certain food technologies yesterday, but let's talk about the advantages of these technologies, especially in the production, preservation, and even distribution chain.
Okay, so the biggest advantage that technology has for food production is much more of supply, because the better your technology, the higher the potential for yields, the higher the potential for profits, of course, and then you have the healthiness of your food. Though that is still a sort of controversial conversation, because nobody has actually taken a test and gone to check, okay, so what is the effect of this packaged food on my health and stuff. But in certain developed countries, that has already been done. They already know what the effect of this is. They already can predict that, okay, so this particular chemical being in here is able to do this, and so on and so forth. So, but in Nigeria, we are improving. We are getting to levels of awareness, basically, that is helping us understand, okay, so if we need higher yields of maize or corn, for example, you need to have access to this particular kind of education. You need to be able to have access to this particular kind of financing or this particular kind of machinery. So it's not just a little impact that is going to have, because you have the potential for agricultural yields that will go to, like I said yesterday, 14 trillion. 14 trillion is a lot of money. And the brains that everyone is using to learn tech, the same brains can be used to apply the tech to farming technologies, to crop technologies. You have technologies that are able to go to the DNA of a particular seed, and from that DNA they can generate a variation of a crop that will probably be resistant to mosquitoes, that will be resistant, sorry, I said mosquitoes, to locusts, and all other plant-based diseases and so on and so forth. So you have these technologies that are there. To some extent, a lot of people believe that using those technologies to influence the kind of cropping and all that we have is practically like playing God. However, the truth is there's famine out there. A lot of people are hungry. A lot of people don't even have access to the food, even though they have the money. You have grain in Ukraine, for example. It can't get here. We are having higher price of bread, especially, and some cereals, because grain is in Ukraine. What is the technology that they have in Ukraine that we don't have here? That's the simple question everyone's supposed to ask. That is where the government is supposed to come in. The government is supposed to be able to, okay, so what exactly has Ukraine done right that we have been doing wrong? What exactly do we need to put in place? We have been spending billions on different projects. This is food. It's our survival. It is the number one thing that we must spend money on.
Yes, I quite agree with you on that, because one of the advantages of food technology is to enable global distribution of food. We are at a point where, some countries that don't even have the land to grow certain crops are finding different ways to produce such crops and are even exporting.
Exactly.
So if you have food technology, you put certain things in place that enables you to produce certain crops in large quantity. You can feed your country and even export to other countries and make more money.
Oh, definitely. So there's this, shall I call it a rumor or report, that many years ago Nigeria had a lot of palm kernel oil, and then some country, without mentioning names, came to Nigeria, got a sample of the product, took it to their country, and today they're the largest exporter of palm oil, palm kernel products in the world. They did something to whatever it is that they took to enable them get to that level of production to be able to meet up the exporting needs. Bear in mind, being largest exporter in the world means we have enough already to consume, right? However, locally sourced technologies, let me put it that way, because let's be honest with ourselves, our mothers and fathers have been doing this for very long. There's a reason gari is called gari, right? Gari is cassava that is dried and broken down into powder. That is gari. Now you have gari Ijebu, gari this, they say gari Igbo, gari that. It's just different technologies that they're using to process it that's making the gari different. It's the same gari. There are some garis that can last, you put it in a bag, can last for maybe like 2 weeks without even touching it. There are some garis that cannot last for 2 days, right? So these technologies have been there. The difference is we now need to actually use physical technologies, because technology is both agrarian and physical, and of course computerized technology. You have AI also, part of computerized technology. So the ability to adapt these technologies to whatever it is that we are doing now is extremely essential for us to be able to overcome this so-called hunger that we are encountering.
You mentioned a good number of points just in that line of thought, talking about food technology helping to prolong food shelf life.
Yes.
To also reduce spoilage, wastage. It just increases or enhances food safety.
Yes.
In a nutshell. And let's also talk about providing options, diverse food options. I know food technologists are the ones that take a particular food product, take another one, mix them to see what new food options you can get. But how well do you think we have been doing when it comes to providing more food options for the populace in Africa compared to the other parts of the world?
Okay, so food options are basically restricted to what is available. Right? It's not like you have the independence of decision on, okay, so this crop that is in Australia is what I want to eat today. Then fly it in, right? If our plants can't grow it, you can't have it.
But
here.
It's one thing for you to even look at crops that you cannot grow in your land.
Yes.
That's one aspect of
yes.
Food options. But we're talking about finding a way to use what you have to produce alternatives.
So I was actually going there, right? First off, from the consumer perspective, the consumer needs to understand that what is available is what you can have. However, from the producer's perspective, there are technologies already available that you can use to grow apples in your house. Even though the land that we have is not naturally suited for such apples, right? So all we need to do is to go and discover, okay, so for apples, for example, if I want to grow apples en masse, what do I do? What technology do I need? You have technologies that can tell you the soil temperature that is required, the kind of soil that is required, the nutrients you have to have present in that salt, and they are available in the market now, right? Unlike those days when our forefathers would just use cow dung or feces and spread it everywhere. Still efficient, but not as efficient in productivity as we would expect. So you have technologies out there. You have urea, manures that are being produced here and there. Now,
Welcome back to Business Insight on Souq News. Before that break in transmission, we were talking about the food technologies advantage, especially in the area of providing food alternatives to the consumers. And, you know, you were talking about how food technology has been able to help farmers find new ways of, you know, sustaining the production of certain crops, yes, and all of that. Meanwhile, I am Ola Oluwawe. He is Ahmed Jayola, a business analyst. And so let's talk about Nigeria. For example, there was a time when, if we talk about swallow, Nigerians only had access to the usuals like eba. That means the gari flour. You talk about amala, the yam flour, and your cassava flour, and the other things we know. But at some point, the semo came in. We started seeing packaged wheat flour. You know, we started seeing, you know, other alternatives to the regular swallows or the flour mills that we had. So, but do you think when it comes to providing alternatives in that line, we are really keeping up with other parts of the world? Okay, so
we don't necessarily need to go the way of swallow, because that's what we are used to down here. There are other nutritious foods out there. You have, okay, so as swallow is quite popular down here, in the Middle East, you have, what do you call it, corn crops, right? Maize crops that are much more popular over there. And in other countries, you have different crops that they are used to, okay? We just need to be peculiar about, like you said, what pertains to us the most. But I can tell you that as much as we take a lot of swallow in Nigeria, we don't buy as much swallow as, shall I call them, rice products now, right? You have rice, of course, falls within the category of grain, right? We do a lot of grain in Nigeria. We have a lot of grain in the north.
You know, Ahmed, the whole idea of asking that question is to help different entrepreneurs find opportunities, yes, along this line.
Exactly.
So I know that there are some food technologists in Nigeria that have been able to do one research or the other and come up with, you know, new food types just with the existing food stuff that we have. But do you think we're doing well enough? Are there opportunities in this line for business?
Oh yes, there are a lot of opportunities. Okay, take for example, I want to use one swallow, the pounded yam, all right? Pounded yam is a cultural, what do you call it, product, or shall I say food that we eat. But with the advent of technology, it has become something you can basically just stir at your convenience, which is what they now call poundo. Now, there are other products that you can, you know, take advantage of within that same line. And many of these things, as far as business is concerned, you can't go wrong if you have the solution to rice not lasting long in the house. If you have the solution to, what do you call it, being able to, in fact, some people are, I hear that some people are beginning to go as far as you can do poundo with cold water. Just like
wow.
Yes, just like you take gari. Like you can do poundo with cold water. I don't know how far that research has gone. But
no, I really don't understand. Like, how do you take poundo? Are you going to use cold water to make it into the mold it's supposed to be? Or you're supposed to put the flour in the water and drink it like gari?
Okay, so there is this crude thing that is done by some people where when there's no hot water, you just carry the gari, you pour in, and as much as it is full, you just start using your hand to mold it, and then you use it to eat. Okay? Because it is edible. There are people that don't even put gari in water. They just put their hand in, throw it in their mouth, and they are snacking away, right? Someone is trying to come up with such an idea for yam, where yam can become, you know, a powder that you can just, you know, put inside a 15 container and you sell to people and they just buy from the counter and they just chew on the go.
But I wonder how successful that will be, considering the fact that a good number of people like to take their food hot here in Nigeria. Let's see. I hope they do their market research very well before they come up with a thing.
And that's where I was going to. So when you come to the amount of things, or shall I say, kind of foods that are required by a particular country or a particular locality, okay? Then you go into the market and go and find out, okay, so if I decide to do something, different based on what is available in the market, would it sell? Because you can't just say because the product is available, everybody is going to buy it. There's a reason people are not buying the rice that is produced locally versus the rice that is produced, from the foreign markets. Even though the rice is being bought, but it's not moving as much as the rice that is from the foreign markets. So that sentiment exists. You have to do your research. You have to know that, okay, so this is moving. Okay, so what are the problems that they have with this? So the problems that they have with this, can I solve that problem? So you go into genetics, you go into, technological, appliances, whatever machines that you need to buy to be able to solve that problem and then create a new variation of that particular product that is now not susceptible to the same issues that the previous one had. So at the end of the day, like someone said, problems bring solutions. If you don't have problems, how would you know that you need a solution? So unless people complain, you just stick to the status quo. Some people do get attracted to other things, but the need is not there. And there's no business that survives on want most of the time. Need drives businesses, makes businesses ready to, makes people ready to part with whatever cash they have in their pockets just to, purchase such a product. So for businesses that want to go into, providing alternative food types, it is best to do your research well. It is best to know what you are going into. It is best to know that you have the technology, and you have to understand the government policies around it too. A good example is Nigerian government does not allow the export of grain. We don't even have enough. So if Nigerian government is not allowing the export of grain, the question is how much grain do we have and how much more is being demanded within the local economy before you go into such a business. Otherwise, you'll be competing with big guns that will probably swallow you up at the end of the day.
Yes, another area of food technology, I believe, in Nigeria, we are doing well in, is in food packaging. And a good number of food items you see in shelves and supermarkets now taking new looks. For example, if you talk about the cashew nut, for a very long time, the popular way of preserving the cashew nut is keeping it in bottles. And same with groundnuts, and packaging it in bottles, labeling it, just keeping it on the shelf and expecting people to buy. But we now have companies that have started, packaging in tin. So what are the innovations that you have seen in the area of packaging so far, and what are the opportunities there for those who want to make money from this?
Okay, so the supply chain is where packaging belongs. If you're not good at providing quality, the likelihood that whoever it is that you provide that package to will turn your product down, even if your product is the best, is extremely high. The same printing technology that we have, that we use to print our papers, billboards, flyers, and the rest of them, that same technology is what is going to be applied in this case. There's no special technology that I use to print for agriculture. The difference is, if the Food and Drug Administration looks at your packaging and it has something poisonous, then you cannot use it. So you have to understand these things before you say, okay, so I just want to go into packaging. No. What are the rules? What are the regulations? What are the materials you can use, materials you cannot use? Everywhere in the world, everyone is migrating, like I said yesterday, to plant-based packaging.
Sustainable packaging.
Sustainable packaging, where you are not using non-perishable material like plastic and so on and so forth for your packaging. Now, you come locally and, okay, so to be able to provide plant-based packaging, it automatically means you need a lot of trees. Are you planting? In Nigeria, real estate has taken over almost everything that we do now. Almost all the trees that are important for getting out drugs and this kind of packaging that we're talking about are being felled every day and being sold at the sawmill, right? And in replacement, they have put buildings of brick and cement, and nothing is going to grow on that land again, right? So if we continue at this pace, unless a business decides to go and separate maybe a plot of land, or take over a particular region of place that is already that has a lot of trees and so on and so forth, how do you want to survive locally? How do you want to fell the trees, get the material that you need to make the package, then make the package, then take it to market? It will become extremely expensive for you. So at the end of the day, a lot of people don't have a choice but to import. Then when they import based on, okay, so whatever specifications that are in the market, and then they now print on those specifications. In some cases, they don't even go as far as printing on their own. They will send the design to the printer over there. The printer will print it and send it down, right? Because we don't have the source materials to be able to do a lot of these things, because we are destroying the source materials in the name of housing.
Now, let's quickly touch on some of the challenges faced in food technology, and the challenges faced by food technology companies, or companies that are, producing using these food technologies that we have mentioned, some yesterday and today. And one of the issues we have observed is investment. It takes a lot of investment to pull this out. How do you think we can balance this up and we can overcome this challenge?
So the government has to come in, because a lot of farmers we thank God for the new administration who has made it a point of duty to tackle the issue of insecurity, because insecurity is one of the biggest drains, financial drains in the agro industry, right? If farmers cannot go to work, if they are afraid, if they are, they cannot stay there for long, how in the world is the farmer going to produce what you are going to use? Now, if the farmer is going to provide his own security, imagine the cost of that. And it is going to reflect on the crop. And then the crop will come out more expensive than even the one that is being brought out from outside. So what is the benefit of producing that crop if the government is not doing its job to draw costs down? Because there's a reason people prefer to buy locally, because it's supposed to be cheaper. But when the locally produced goods are more expensive, then there's an anomaly. Maybe there is a shift that is beginning to happen, or there is a process that is not working. Because the truth of the matter is, when things are expensive locally, it doesn't necessarily mean that maybe it's because they are importing at high prices and so on and so forth. No, not necessarily. Sometimes it's about the amount it takes them to be able to sustain whatever it is that they have here. So when you say that you are producing locally and it is not cheap, and government is not providing financing, subsidizing certain things, I'm aware that the government is involved in a lot of subsidy when it comes to farm products. Government is giving free fertilizers away. Government is giving free tractors away. The CBN governor, the past CBN governor went into farmers, scheme of billions of naira. So you have many initiatives that government is bringing into, so that at the end of the day, people can afford to farm and farm cheap.
Thank you very much, Ahmed Jayola, for the insight on the program today. And that's where we wrap it up. I am Olaoluwa Awe. We'll continue next week with another interesting business topic. Stay tuned. Or stay tuned to Business Insights whenever we bring it your way. But have a nice day for now.